Well, the Nationals leader David Littleproud has held talks with the Liberals leader Susan Lee as the pair attempt to sort out their differences and maybe even reform the coalition more than a week after they spectacularly split. Well, joining us live on this Tuesday morning, the Nationals Senator Matt Canavan. Good to see you this morning, Matt. So how did things go last night, in your view?
Well, look, I wasn't there, Peter, so I can't give you any inside the room account. Look, I'm glad that things are progressing. I'd like to see the coalition reformed. That's not what I'm focused on today, though. We've got a busy sitting day. I'm going to be introducing bills this week to end the ridiculous ban on nuclear energy, to end net zero and make sure we can get downward pressure on prices. Of course, last week's inflation figures showed that Australia has the highest inflation rate in the developed world, thanks in part to a refusal to use our own energy sources. And of course, today, that may very well mean that interest rates go up, and that's going to be a further cost to Australian families. So that's what I'm all focused on this week. The negotiations with the Liberal Party are above my pay grade. Wish David the best, but I've got a job to do this week in Canberra and I'll get on with it.
OK, a few more points on that, though, before we get to the cash rate. Is it inevitable now that the coalition will be reformed?
Look, I don't think there's anything inevitable in life, Peter. As I say, I'd like it to be reformed, but I'm very proud of what the Nationals Party has done. The last sitting week here, we stood up for people's right to free speech, right to free association. And that's come at some cost to some of my colleagues, but we don't resolve from the fact that we were acting in the national interest to support the Australian people. And that's all I'm here to do. So whatever the arrangements are between the coalition, within my own party, what position I have, I just keep doing the same.
What should the guardrails be moving forward if the coalition is reunified? Should there be a greater ability to cross the floor, which is a point that was made in Sydney Morning Herald this morning?
Well, I don't really have any particular views on that. I think just common sense has to apply. I mean, there's only been two cases this century where the Liberal and National parties have voted differently on a bill. The bill that came before the Parliament last sitting period was one that went to fundamental rights and privileges, free association, free speech, freedom of religion as well. And then the balance between those and the safety and security of Australians. So reasonable people can disagree on that. It's not surprising. I don't know why shadow ministers had to be sacked for voting in favour of their party room position. The last time this happened in 2008, that didn't happen and the coalition didn't break. It's happened again this time, so it's very rare. I'll let others decide those things, but I think mainly just common sense has to prevail. OK.
Well, if the coalition does reunite, is there trust between the two? Because it's become this quite theatrical on-again, off-again relationship. And there'd, I suppose, be an expectation that you'd break up again down the track.
I just work with everybody. I'm here to do a job. It's not a marriage. I think sometimes we use far too dramatic terms to describe these things. I'm just here to do a job, and if I can work with other people of the Parliament to do that, to get results for the Australian people, I will. So I'm sure I can work with Liberal members of Parliament, other members of Parliament to get things done.
You must be concerned, though, when you're looking at polling numbers for the Nationals. Now you're separate from the coalition, polling at 2%. I mean, is that cause for concern?
Well, that's not particularly surprising, given we don't run. We only run in a handful of seats across the country. We do very well locally, and as I keep going back to, all I've got to do, my job is to represent the people of Queensland. I particularly focus on central Queensland in my role. I know people like Andrew Wilcox, Michelle Landry, Colin Boyce in my area is central Queensland. They focus on that, and it's not complicated. You deliver results for people, you fight for people, you'll often get their support. So that's all I've got. That's all we've got to focus on, and that's what I'm doing this week by trying to end the ban on nuclear energy, by trying to bring down power prices for people, focus on cost of living. The one thing about the polls that does say, Peter, is that the Australian people feel that the political class down here is not responding to their concerns. So I think the first job we could all do as politicians is take more time to listen to the Australian people and what they want. And clearly they want action on cost of living. This government is not doing that because they're persisting with these mad policies that deny the Australian people the use of their own energy resources. They're spending money like a drunken sailor, which is increasing inflation. And so we've got to listen to people. We listen to people and then take action. That's all we can do.
So, I mean, one more in the polls. I mean, it's obviously showing the surge to One Nation. Cory Bernardi's now joined its ranks. What do you make of that?
Well, Cory had already left the Liberal Party. He left the Liberal Party 8 years ago. So it's kind of old news here. And I wish Cory well.
Is that a good get for One Nation, though?
Well, look, I don't think people really care about all of us that much. I mean, with all respect to Cory, and I'll mention myself as well, I don't think people really care about me. They don't care about Cory. They care about their real lives. They care about the fact that the living standards of this country have reduced more than any other country in the world since COVID. So let's just focus on that. I really don't care what Cory Bernardi, what party he joins. I care about what's happening to the Australian people. That's why I've been fighting against net zero. That's why I'm fighting to win the ban on nuclear energy. That's why we've got to take action on migration on our borders. They're the things I'm focused on.
All right. So you've already mentioned the RBA, and one of our top stories today is the fact that it's likely that there will be a rate rise. So I'm sure that the Treasurer today, and he's coming up in the program in about half an hour's time, I'm sure he'll be repeating the statements from last week in which they will deny responsibility, that it has been a bounce back for the private sector. How do you react to that, getting ahead of a likely rate rise today?
Well, the fundamental problem we have is that we have a government, a Treasurer that's failing to take responsibility for their own actions. I mean, if Jim Chalmers' position is that he can't control the economy, why is he the Treasurer then? I mean, get someone else in there who thinks they can do something. Because on the argument Jim Chalmers is saying is that he has no control. He has zero responsibility for what's going on. Well, what is the point of the bloke then? Clearly, he's had some impact here. We've had the biggest budget blowout ever in a 6-month period. An astounding $55 billion increase in expenses in 6 months. Keep in mind, that happened in 6 months. That is an increase on average of $216 million a day, every day for the second half of last year. The costs of your money that are spent here in this town blew out by $216 million a day under Jim Chalmers' watch. I mean, that's his responsibility. It's his budget. And how has he possibly allowed a situation to emerge where things like a battery scheme can blow out more than $10 billion in 6 months? They costed it $1 billion. It's now approaching $12 billion in cost in just 6 months. How can Jim get his maths so wrong and still hold the position of Treasurer? I mean, he should resign in disgrace because we've never seen anything like this. I mean, he's managing that, and that extra spending is clearly increasing inflationary pressures in the economy, just as the private sector, as Jim says. If the private sector increases inflationary pressures, how about the $55 billion of extra expenses from the public sector? Surely that increases inflationary pressures and is one of the reasons we're probably going to get an interest rate this afternoon.
All right, Matt Canavan, lengthy chat today, but good to chat as always. We'll talk to you again soon.